All right, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to change your tubeless sealant and what tools you need to do it and how often you should be changing. All right, first things first. Tools needed to do this is going to be a valve core tool. So this is a Park valve core tool. We'll use this to remove the valve cores. All right. You may also need some of these. Tire lever. So one of the ways to add sealant or check it is to peel the bead off one side of the tire, pull it open, take a look, see how much is in there, and then you can just pour some in and then reattach the bead, pump the tire back up, and you're done. So you're gonna need a tire lever, core tool, which we already told you, and then you're gonna need some sealant. What I like about the orange seal is that most of the smaller size bottles come with one of these, which screws on to the bottle like this. And then this tube just goes directly over the valve core and you can just squeeze it right into the wheel. So it's pretty easy to apply, not messy at all, and very quick. Now, if you're running inserts like Cush Core, then I would definitely use this kind of setup because if you have Cush Cores, you would know that removing the bead can be a pain in the butt sometimes, and reinstalling everything after putting sealant in can be a mess. So tires with inserts, which is on my gravel bike and on my mountain bike, I'll go directly through the valve core, and then my road tires, I usually just pull the bead off, look inside, and then pour a little in. So I'll show you how to do all of that. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna start with is a classic tubeless road tire. And I'm gonna pull the front wheel off my road bike. Gonna open it up and show you guys what we find. So let's get this off, and then we'll get the bead off and we'll take a look. Now, we have a flat tire. So there's no air in it. I'm gonna go ahead and open the valve just to make sure there's nothing in there. And yeah, it's pretty empty. So what I'm gonna do is with my thumbs, I'm gonna break the bead in one place here. Just kind of push it in like that. All right. And then what that does is create space for me to get my tire lever underneath it. All right. So I can see right now that it's pretty dry already. Really dry. Jeez. So I'm gonna break more of the bead just so it's easier to peel off. There we go. All right. Yeah, there's like nothing in here. All right, so just pulling the bead over on one side and seeing what I find. All right, so there literally is just about no sealant in here. So I would get a close-up of this, but I don't want to tilt this over because you'll see it'll start to spill. But there's literally nothing in here. So this is empty. It is still pretty moist inside, but there's just not a lot of sealant. So, I mean, I can feel big pieces of dried rubber inside there. You can see that. That's sealant that is dried on the inside of my tire. So pretty gunky, but it is still wet. It's not dried up. So to add more of this, you're gonna need a better camera angle. So let me switch cameras and we'll get a better close-up of this. Okay guys, so I wanted to show you what I saw when I pulled this tire open. So there's a little sealant in there, not a lot. So I'm going to add sealant to this tire. So probably just a couple ounces, but you can see what I'm seeing inside. So what that does, it just allows, when we pull this off, it allows us to see what's inside and whether it's dried up or there's plenty of sealant in there. So there's some in there. I'm just gonna add, like I said, I'm probably gonna add like an ounce or two. And then we'll close this up, pump it back up, and be done with it. All right, so super easy. I'm just gonna pour a little into the tire like so. And then you can see the sealant in there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spin the tire. Let me set the sealant down. I'm going to put the lid on so I don't spill all this. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate this tire around so that the sealant that I just poured in is now down here in the bottom of the tire, and where I'm going to put the bead back on, there's no sealant up there. So it's not gonna be a mess, and it just is easier to go ahead and mount the tire, all right? So bead is back on. So we are pretty much done. So now we can just go ahead and add air to this guy and we'll be good to go. Okay guys, so one of the disadvantages of peeling the tire off the wheel and adding sealant that way is that you're breaking the bead and you're breaking the seal that the tire has on the rim. So what that does is that keeps the tire in place and makes it very easy to pump up. But when you break that seal, pull the tire over the edge of the rim and then add sealant like I just did, it can make it very difficult to pump the tire back up and to reseat the tire onto the rim. So in this case, that's what happened. I was unsuccessful in trying to pump this back up with just a basic bike pump. You would need an actual compressor with compressed air and a lot of force to go ahead and set this back onto the rim. So one of the disadvantages of not going through the valve core with the sealant is that exact problem. And I just remembered last night when I was shooting the first part of this video that this specific Vittoria Corsa Clincher wants to fold into itself when it's released from the rim. So it's staying pretty narrow and doesn't want to seat. So this side of the tire is already seated onto the rim. This side of the tire that I pulled off doesn't want to seat back on. So if you don't have a compressor or you're not near one, I would absolutely recommend that you put your sealant through the valve core, which I'm going to show you how to do next on one of my mountain bike tires. Okay, so next we're going to refill the sealant on my front wheel from my mountain bike. This is a 29er Derby carbon DH rim with a cush core. And so we're gonna go directly through the valve core valve stem. So the first thing we wanna do is take the air out, make sure it's empty. Like so. All right, and while I'm doing that, I'm gonna grab my valve core tool, which is in my pocket. So this is the Park. Hold it for a second so it focuses. This is the Park valve core tool. Links are gonna be below in the description. I have a video right here. I'll link right above. I've got a great video on how to remove valve cores and replace them. And I go over how to use these tools, how to pull these out, etc. So if you're not sure what to do, check that video out and you'll have a full tutorial. So I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this. This is on there kind of tight. Hang on. All right, there we go. Come on, there we go. All right, so just go ahead and remove the valve core like so. All right, so this is what a valve core looks like, if you're not sure. Easy to replace, they're very cheap, you can buy them in sets. So, next thing we're gonna do is put some sealant in here. And this has got little, it's hard to see, but this bottle has little markings on how much to put in for each type of tire. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up with the correct amount. I believe it's 2 or 3 ounces, 2 to 4 ounces for a tire like this. I'm gonna put the tube cap on top, and then we're gonna fill this up. So, be right back. Okay guys, so this bottle is 8 ounces. They recommend 3 to 4 ounces for a 29er wheel tire. So I've got this a little less than half filled, and we're gonna put this into the wheel. So, pretty straightforward. So even though I have this vertically oriented like this, I can still put this on like that. I'm just gonna slide this over the, try to slide it over. There we go. All right. And I have a phone call, great. Shut that off. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys like this. I'm just gonna flip this all upside down like that, so it's easy to see. So what I'm basically doing is just squeezing this through the valve, and it's gonna go into the wheel. And just give it a second. So we're about almost all the way through. And just for camera purposes. All right, that is done and empty. So I'm going to spin this back around like this. That will help disperse some of the fluid. Just gonna take this off. And that's basically it. So I've got a good 3.5 ounces or so in here. I'm now going to reinsert the valve core. So we're just gonna screw this in by hand. And then with the valve core tool, just slightly tighten it. You don't need to crank on these. It's overkill. Just tighten it snug and you're done. All right, we're gonna put air into this. And because I didn't break the seals, the tires should just pump up no problem, like first go. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna get the bike pump on this, pump this up, spin it around and show you guys. In fact, I'm just gonna pump it up right here for you guys. So bike pump is on, it's empty, there's no air in here. And we can just turn on this little gauge here. All right, so it is pumping up, no problem. All right, just gonna stop there for demonstration purposes. When I add sealant to a tire and I'm pumping it up, I always put this up in the 12 o'clock position. That way all the sealant is sitting down here. And when you go like this and pull this off, you've got no sealant being sucked from the bottom through the valve. So it just makes it a little cleaner. So now I've got a nice bouncy tire, as you can see. So I'll put this on the bike. You want to go ahead and give it a spin, get all that sealant moving around the tire, coating everything, and yeah, good to go. So you saw the difference of how much easier it was to fill through the valve than pulling the bead off. Now, the disadvantage to doing it this way is I don't know how dry it was inside there. I've been riding a lot, it's been dry, I haven't put sealant in here for a while, so I'm pretty sure I'm safe, and I would rather err on maybe having a little too much sealant than not having enough and getting a flat and not being able to ride. So, advantages to this method using one of these: quick, easy, no problem pumping back up. The other method allows you to actually see how much sealant is in the tire, and you have the potential of issues when pumping it back up in terms of seating the tire, especially if you don't have a compressor. So I'm gonna take this Clincher tire to my friend's bike shop that has a compressor, and I'm gonna try and catch on camera like what it takes to get it to seat, and give you guys an idea of what that's like and what's needed to accomplish that. So we're done with the mountain bike tire. This looks great. We can spin it. I'm not gonna spin it here, but spinning it around like this really quick just to get some sealant moving. And then also bouncing it on the floor like this will shake up the sealant pretty well. So that one is done and can go back. That one's done and can go back on the bike. Okay guys, so I'm at my friend's bike shop. I've got the tire valve core removed, and I'm just going to use the compressor to air that up. So, worked perfectly. Got air in it, tire is seated. I'm gonna put the valve core back inside really quick with my hand. And we are good to go. So, tire is seated, just needed good air pressure to do it. Couldn't do it with a bike pump. So again, one of the possible disadvantages of pulling the tire over the rim to add sealant. So we are good to go. Okay guys, I am back from the bike shop and I just wanted to go over everything and then talk about how often we should check and or replace our sealant. So first off, first method I showed you was how to pull the tire off to the side, go ahead and check the actual sealant levels, and then mount the tire back up. We saw that that's great for actually seeing how much sealant is in there, but depending on the tire type, and how well it expands, or your air pumping abilities, whether you have a compressor or not, possible issue with getting the tire to reseat with a bike pump. So that's the first method. Second method we saw on my mountain bike tire was removing the valve core, getting the sealant into a bottle like this, and then just pushing the sealant directly into the wheel with a bottle and hand pressure. Now, that eliminates the issue of having to reseat the tire. It's easy to put in, no mess, super simple, very quick, but we don't know how much sealant is inside the tire. So pros and cons to both. I prefer the second method. It's just quick and easy. If you haven't checked your sealant in the last 3 to 6 months, I would almost guarantee that it's absolutely dried up. So how often should you check? How often should you refill? If you're in a dry environment like me, I would check it at least every 2 to 3 months, maybe every month. If you live in the Pacific Northwest and it's wet and you ride a lot and you just recently put sealant in, then maybe you could go a couple months. If your bike has been sitting for more than a month or two, absolutely put some sealant in. I would bet money that it is dried up. So that is in and of a nutshell what to do, how to replace your sealant, how often to replace it. I would replace it more than less. And then that way, you're always covered when you're out on a ride. So again, thanks you guys for watching. Go ride your bikes. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I will be answering viewer questions every week with a video on Sundays. And if you're enjoying these videos and you're getting some value out of this and I'm helping you, or you're getting some good answers, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.